I met Chris because of the nonprofit that I'm a director of, which is Brewing Change Collaborative. We work to foster diversity, equity, and inclusion for people of color in the brewing and beverage industry. And we were connected through Mecca. And then Mecca and I happened to be on the same flight to Mardi Gras last year. And she was going to meet him. And after we were on the back and forth, she was like, what do you think about this opportunity? And I was already with a company that I loved and still do, doing sales. And the opportunity just came up and it totally surprised me and wasn't something I was ready or expecting. But after a lot of thought and conversations with Chris, I realized it was something that I really did want to do, and it meant a lot more than just taking a new position. It meant a lot for me personally, it meant a lot for my career, but it also meant a lot for the industry. As before I came over here, I was the only Black sales rep in the state, as far as I know, in beer or in anything. I remember at one of our last nonprofit meetings, I told everybody that I was taking this position, or even upon talking about it with people, they all kind of looked at me and I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what you have to do, because I'm in my personal life doing a lot to foster diversity and make spaces for people who don't have access ways. And it's a passion and something that I've been working toward with a bunch of other people. I've figured out that I loved the industry by sitting at the bar and talking to the bartenders and trying new things and figuring out where my interests lied in that, and then having a focus that was much more heavily in beer for the last 6 years or so, watching tap handles change. It was no longer macro brews, it became a lot of craft and a lot of local craft, and then figuring out what that was and being the type of person who's very inquisitive and wants to learn more and do research, and I took classes and did all sorts of things that really wound up heightening my passion for that, and realized that there was a pathway that wasn't brewing beer into the industry. Sales was a natural avenue, and then after being in beer and finding different available roles here and there, and then getting into sales, again, Mecca was the person who called me a unicorn for the first time. And until that moment, I hadn't realized that I was the only person. It wasn't something that I thought about, kind of like Chris didn't think about being the only or the first. You're just living your life, and somebody points it out. And it was hilarious and awful at the same time. And it sent me on kind of a self-introspective find of why am I here? Why do I want to do this? And why is there nobody else like me doing this? And found a lot of different people and communities and a large Black beer community, which is surprising, but it exists and it's exciting. And those people have become a part of my family and in a different way. And so the opportunity came when one of my co-directors came back from being out of town and moving away and wanting to start a project that allowed for more people of color to be in and involved. We talked about it and said we have to do something about the fact that we're the only two people we could think of to have this conversation with. I'm not exactly sure where it will go. I know that me being in this position, at least in Minnesota, will do kind of what it did in beer. It'll make people's eyes open up to the fact that I am one of the only, or the only. And for the people in my nonprofit or people who don't know about pathways and other ways they can be involved in an industry, it'll open their eyes to that too. I can think of many times that I've heard people say, I wasn't expecting you when I walked into a room. So hopefully that will become less frequent. I'm a pretty blunt and straightforward person, so it usually presents some sort of response of oh, what were you expecting? And challenging them, because I never want anybody to be able to just slide out a comment and not have to think about what they said. As the company grows and as our actions speak, I expect that to be something that draws people as well. I'm not necessarily expecting for everyone to arrive in droves to be a beer rep or a liquor rep or something like that, but to know that they have the option and know that they have someone they can talk to about the fact that they don't have experience in this, but here's where their passions are and where can they fit in. That's a conversation most people don't get to have.